Sub-accounts, Vince talked some about sub-accounts, and primarily for general ledger processing, they tie back to cost share, where we have that thing where you can create a cost share sub-account, tie it to a source account that's really going to pay for the cost share, and the scrubber will create the correct entries behind the scenes. Attributes of organizations that get pulled in during GL processing, the plant fund account numbers on organizations that Bill mentioned when he was showing the organization document for capitalization and plant indebtedness. So the GL is looking at lots of different attributes of your chart. There's also an offset definition reference table, and this is just a table that, and actually transaction processing, the EDOCS looks at this table too. So for instance, when Barb and Nicole did their distribution of income and expense, the system knew which offsets to generate for that because of entries in this reference table. The table says for this type of document, this balance type, here's the object code I want you to offset to. Here's the kind of offset I want you to create. So you can customize that for your institution, and transaction processing will use it, and the scrubber will use it to generate offsets in the event that it gets an unbalanced transaction. And this is just, these are kind of the greatest hits. There are other places in your chart that definitely impact what happens in the general ledger, but these are some of the most common ones that you'll see. So just in an effort to kind of tie everything together for you, what those decisions that you're making when you're setting up your chart data or when you're refining it have an impact on what happens in the general ledger. A couple things that you can turn on or off, and both of these are kind of big, they were both big enhancements for KFS, that is, they weren't part of the original FIS system that was based on, so there was a definite need for them. One is flexible offsets. The kind of default configuration of KFS is when you enter a transaction and it generates an offset, it puts that offset in the same account as the original transaction. So if I debit expense on account A, it creates the offset for that debited expense in account A. And a lot of institutions want to keep those offsets somewhere else. I don't want the offset in the same account, I want the offset in a central account, or in an account at maybe the campus level or something. So you can choose to turn this on or off. It's a parameter. If you turn it on, then what KFS will do is you can define in a table how you want the offsets done for a particular account. If they should keep posting to that same account, you don't have to do anything. If you want them to post somewhere else, you just specify what account you want those offsets to post to instead. So you just define a different accounting stream for them to post to.
Can you just give me a tangible example of an offset?
An offset, so I credit expense, I will create a debit to cash. That's my offset. You won't see it on the document, but, well, you will see it on the document. You'll just see it in the pending ledger entries because KFS will kind of create it. So you have cash offsets from income and expense, or maybe you're offsetting to liability object codes in certain instances. So that's a couple examples of offsets. And as I said, KFS by default was just going to kind of drop them in the same account, unless you tell it otherwise. And so if you turn this on, tell it otherwise, it'll go ahead and post them elsewhere. Similarly, we have several documents in KFS that are associated with receipts. So we got money coming into the institution or disbursements, money going out of the institution. And some institutions who were looking at KFS, some of our partner schools, wanted to be able to specify what type of offset was done and where it was done based on the bank involved in that transaction. So this is a bank-specific claim on cash feature that exists in KFS. Basically, when you turn this on, what it allows you to do is on these documents you can actually specify a bank code. And you can set up as many bank codes as you want depending on what your banking situation is. And when you set up that bank code, you can give it its own offset accounting string and say, any transactions that are hitting this bank, I want the offsetting entries to go to this account and this object code. And for the institutions that want this, what it will allow them to do is it makes reporting easier for them because they know all the entries in this account and this object code are for bank X and everything over here is for bank Y. And for some folks, that's very important to be able to make that distinction, and it helps not to have it all kind of mushed up in the same account. So a couple kind of neat features that you can turn on that that will have an impact on your general ledger entries.